In the dark corners of the American highway system, a chilling theory has emerged over the past 2 decades. The existence of a network of serial killers who are allegedly targeting young men, often drifters or truck drivers, and leaving their bodies in remote locations. This theory, known as the Smiley Face Killer Theory, suggests that the victims, typically found in bodies of water, are linked by a strange and unnerving pattern, the appearance of smiley face graffiti near the sites of their deaths. The Smiley Face Killer Theory posits that these deaths, which seem accidental on the surface, may in fact be the work of a coordinated group of killers operating across multiple states, with some victims last seen at truck stops or rest areas, common haunts for long-haul truckers, drifters, and transient individuals. While the theory remains controversial and hotly debated among law enforcement and criminologists, it has sparked a growing interest in the possibility of a hidden network of killers operating unnoticed for decades. In this video, we will explore the Smiley Face Killer Theory, the victims connected to the case, the strange similarities between their deaths, and the growing belief that there may be more to these drownings than meets the eye. Could this be the work of a single killer, or are there multiple killers working together to target vulnerable individuals? Join us as we delve into one of the most chilling theories in recent true crime history. The Smiley Face Killer Theory first began to gain traction in the late 1990s and early 2000s, when investigators began to notice a disturbing pattern in the deaths of young men found drowned in various bodies of water. Many of the victims were discovered in rivers, lakes, or ponds, their bodies often found far from where they were last seen. Some had been missing for days or weeks before being recovered, and their deaths were initially ruled as accidental drownings. However, what made these deaths especially unsettling was the strange coincidence that emerged during the investigations. In many cases, the bodies of the victims were found near areas where smiley face graffiti had been sprayed on nearby walls, bridges, or trees. This graffiti, a simple smiling face, often crudely drawn, appeared to be left at or near the crime scenes, suggesting a chilling connection between the deaths. The first victims linked to this theory were predominantly young, college-age men, often described as being in good health and with no history of mental illness or suicidal tendencies. Many had been last seen at truck stops, bars, or rest areas, places where long-haul truckers, drifters, and transient individuals often gather. The victims' deaths were initially dismissed as accidental drownings, cases that law enforcement officials didn't consider suspicious, until investigators noticed the repeated appearance of the smiley face graffiti and began to wonder if something far more sinister was at play. The Smiley Face Killer Theory began to gain traction through the work of 2 retired New York City detectives, Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte. The 2 men, both with extensive backgrounds in law enforcement, began investigating the unusual string of drownings and discovered a disturbing pattern that connected the deaths of young men across multiple states, stretching from the Midwest to the East Coast. Gannon and Duarte argued that these deaths were far from accidents, and they believed that a serial killer or group of killers could be responsible for the deaths of up to 40 young men over the course of several years. According to their theory, the victims were being targeted by a network of killers who took advantage of truck stops, highway rest areas, and other remote locations to lure their victims. Once the victims were taken to a secluded spot, the killers allegedly drowned them and disposed of their bodies in bodies of water. The most chilling aspect of the theory, however, was the discovery of smiley face graffiti near many of the sites where the bodies were found. The detectives argued that this symbol was not merely a coincidence, but a signature, a way for the killers to mark their territory or to send a taunting message to the police. The smiley face, a symbol of happiness, stood in stark contrast to the horror of the crimes and seemed to mock the very nature of the investigation. Gannon and Duarte's theory gained some support among other investigators, though it was met with skepticism from many law enforcement agencies, who insisted that the deaths were accidental drownings with no evidence of foul play. Despite the pushback, the theory began to capture the imagination of the public, and the idea of a network of killers operating under the radar gained traction. Smiley Face Killer Theory shares several characteristics. Most were young men, often college students or young professionals, who were in their late teens or early 20s. Many of them were described as athletic and in good physical condition, and there was little to suggest that any of them had suicidal tendencies. Some of the victims had been out drinking with friends or had visited bars or nightclubs before their disappearance. Others were seen at truck stops or rest areas, places where people traveling long distances often stopped to take a break or stretch their legs. Many of the victims were reported missing for days or even weeks before their bodies were discovered in nearby bodies of water. The cause of death in most cases was ruled as drowning, though there were signs of struggle in some cases. A few victims had injuries, such as bruises or contusions, that suggested they had been attacked before being drowned. However, the injuries were often not severe enough to suggest foul play, and the official cause of death remained an accidental drowning. What makes these cases even more eerie is the fact that many of the victims were found far from where they were last seen. They were often discovered in bodies of water that were not near their homes or the places where they had been last spotted. This raised the question, how did they get there, and why were they dumped in such remote locations? The most unsettling aspect of the Smiley Face Killer Theory is the discovery of smiley face graffiti near many of the crime scenes. This graffiti, often found on nearby bridges, walls, and even trees, is a simple symbol, usually a yellow smiling face with 2 dots for eyes and a curved line for a mouth. The symbol is easily drawn and could be created quickly, but it seemed to be placed with a deliberate and eerie intent. Some investigators believe that the smiley face is a signature of the killers, a symbol used to mark the location of the crime or to send a message. The detectives who champion the theory suggest that the symbol represents the killer's twisted sense of humor, mocking the victims and law enforcement. Others believe that the smiley face could be a calling card, a symbol left behind to taunt authorities and make it clear that the killer was still active. In some cases, the smiley face graffiti appeared at the scene of the body's discovery, while in others, it was found nearby, in locations that seemed to be chosen specifically for their proximity to the body. The discovery of these symbols was always unsettling, and they led many to believe that the cases were not simple drownings, but the work of a serial killer, or a group of killers leaving their mark. The central question surrounding the Smiley Face Killer Theory is whether these deaths were the work of a single killer, or if a network of killers is operating across multiple states. Some investigators believe that the smiley face graffiti is the key to understanding the connection between the deaths, suggesting that multiple killers, possibly operating together, are involved in the murders. The theory proposes that the killers use the highways, particularly truck stops and rest areas, as hunting grounds where they can prey on vulnerable individuals, often drifters or young men traveling alone. Others argue that the pattern of killings could be the result of a single serial killer who travels across the country, targeting young men at truck stops and other isolated locations. This theory suggests that the killer is not only driven by the desire to commit murder, but is also taunting law enforcement with the graffiti and the apparent randomness of the murders. Despite the many theories and investigations, the Smiley Face Killer Theory remains unresolved. No one has been able to definitively prove that the deaths were caused by a serial killer or group of killers, and no arrests have been made in connection with the cases. Many of the victims' deaths have been ruled as accidental drownings, and law enforcement agencies continue to maintain that there is no evidence to suggest foul play. However, the theory persists, fueled by the eerie coincidences between the victims' deaths and the appearance of the Smiley Face Graffiti. The idea that a network of killers is operating across the United States, targeting vulnerable individuals, remains an unsettling possibility. Could the Smiley Face Killers still be out there, hidden in plain sight, continuing to kill and leave their eerie mark on the world? Or is this a mystery that will never be solved? A theory that will linger in the shadows, always just out of reach? The Smiley Face Killer Theory is one of the most chilling and controversial true crime theories in recent history. Whether you believe in the supernatural implications of the Smiley Face Graffiti or see it as a taunting signature of a network of killers, the mystery continues to intrigue and terrify. The possibility that there may be a group of predators operating unnoticed for years is a terrifying thought. What do you think? Is there a network of serial killers? Or is this a myth created by coincidences and sensationalism? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more chilling true crime stories and unsolved mysteries.